Okay, guys, we are now officially halfway through Loki season 2, and I I just I can't say anything, but this show keeps getting better and better every single week. Every episode is better than the last, and this is this might even be my favorite episode of the whole entire Loki series. This was just fantastic. This was a tremendous episode, which really didn't even have a whole lot of Loki in it, which is interesting. I mean, every single one of these episodes I love for a different reason, and something I loved about the first two episodes was the focus and the emphasis on the relationship between Loki and Mobius and that kind of brotherhood that they have with one another now. But this episode, that's still there, but the focus on this episode is on Victor Timely, He Who Remains, Kang the Conqueror, Jonathan Majors, whatever you want to call him. Just this entity, this being that has this future ahead of him. It was such an interesting deep dive into this. And obviously, we have Jonathan Majors back here. This is the first time we're seeing him on screen since Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and since the whole arresting of Jonathan Majors, which that's still a whole really complicated situation. We don't know how that's going to go. But man, after this episode, I really hope that all those accusations against him are not true. I mean, in general, I don't want them to be true, because um, this guy's awesome. Just, I loved him in Loki season 1, and I loved him as Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. He was the best part, one of the only good parts of that movie. And here, he just really showcases how good of an actor he really is, because all three versions, all three variants of Kang here that he has played in the MCU so far, each and every single one of them is different. And even though this one, at least we're led to believe, is a past version of He Who Remains, you can see kind of the flourishes of He Who Remains, but still not quite to the eccentricness as He Who Remains was, which, I mean, I think his performance as He Who Remains was exceptional, considering like it just felt like a guy who had been sitting there all alone for all that time. And here again, you get hints of that, but I love like the stutter and just like the awkwardness of this character, and just everything about Victor Timely in this episode was fantastic. I loved everything that was going on here. Um, Now, the like I said, the story kind of focuses on him. We do have some Loki and Mobius stuff going on here in this episode as well. Not a whole lot that I'm going to talk about. I do just want to point out in the beginning of the episode, obviously we started this episode in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair, which also that was really cool. I love the kind of like old timey piano music. I really like the version of the Marvel Studios intro music done on the piano. I thought that sounded really, really cool. And everything in this episode is very like time period centric, and so I really enjoyed that factor in here as well. But one of my favorite moments with Loki is that when they were at the Chicago World's Fair, they came upon this kind of display of statues that were of the Norse gods. You had Odin, you had Thor, not Loki, but Balder the Brave, which I thought was hilarious, and especially because Loki was like, nobody even knows who Balder is, which, to be fair, most people don't know who Balder is, because Balder has not been in the MCU. Fun fact, Balder the Brave was originally going to be in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. There's official concept art. He was going to be played by Daniel Craig, and Balder was going to be a member of the Illuminati, but for one reason or another, that did not end up happening, and we actually ended up getting John Krasinski as Reed Richards instead, so I'm pretty happy with that. But it was a funny little reference here, so I enjoyed seeing that on display. Sylvie in this episode, I, I mean, I understand where her character's coming from, but I really hate her in this season. But I feel like we're not really supposed to like her character, at least not right now. Like again, she has a very valid point. You can see where she's coming from. But we're siding with Loki, and they're clearly on opposite ends of the spectrum in their arguments right now. But like I said, that's really kind of the main stuff that goes on with Loki and Sylvie in this episode. We'll talk about Sylvie a little bit later as well. But again, the focus here was on Jonathan Majors' Victor Timely, and also Ravonna Renslayer and Miss Minutes, the two women in his life, um, which was weird, but crazy and awesome in the weirdest way. So, yeah, Ravonna Renslayer makes her return, and we kind of see at the beginning of the episode, they visit Victor Timely as a child and basically deliver him the TVA handbook, so that this person can eventually one day go on to become he who remains, and they can rule over the sacred timeline together as like this great thing. And I love how, us comic fans who know in the comics, Ravonna Renslayer and Kang the Conqueror, they're romantically involved. So this whole episode, I thought that's what was being set up here, like, oh, they are going to be partners, but that's what made it so more satisfying and surprising and shocking when he betrayed Ravonna. And then I also love how in that scene on the boat, you could just see Miss Minutes just in the background, just smiling. And it was so creepy and disturbing. Miss Minutes in this episode is terrifying. Like, she was terrifying with her jump scare at the end of season 1. But man, in this episode, it is taken to a whole other level. I did really enjoy the stuff with her being in black and white. The whole ghost clock thing, I thought that was pretty funny. But after Ravonna Renslayer is betrayed, he takes Miss Minutes to his workshop, his laboratory, and we get this little revelation about Miss Minutes that she really loves He Who Remains, like more than we thought. Yeah, she wishes she was a person. She wishes she had a body so that she could really love him, if you know what I mean. And again, this was like, it makes so much sense, but I did not see it coming, mainly just because this is Disney Plus, and I didn't think we'd ever see anything like this on Disney Plus. But boy, did we! Oh, we saw. I mean, just the image of her face on the mannequin head was like so disturbing, but so. Again, I'm glad they went there because it's so effective, but it's so weird. And again, I just didn't expect it from Disney Plus. But after this, we do get a conclusion of the episode. He kind of disperses of Miss Minutes, so I'm not sure when. Well, actually, we did see her come back at the end of the episode. But yeah, so Loki and Mobius show up. They end up getting Victor Timely. They kick him through a time door, so he's going back to the TVA. So I'm excited to see that in the next episode. But Sylvie shows up once again, and she resists killing Ravonna. And instead, she ends up kicking her through a time door to take her to the Citadel at the end of time, which that's of course where we ended season 1, where He Who Remains died. So we end this episode with Ravonna Renslayer reunited with Miss Minutes, now teaming up once again. They're done fighting over their man. Now they want to get revenge on their man. And right there, sitting before them, is the dead, rotting, zombified corpse of He Who Remains, which again, what a great visual shot there, and again, just disturbing shot that you wouldn't expect Disney Plus to necessarily do, but I loved it. Again, this was a great episode. I loved Jonathan Majors in this episode, so again, I really hope that things work out and he can continue to play Kang, because he's just fantastic in this role, in the many versions and variants of this character. It's just been great. So I hope that we get more of that, and obviously we will be getting more Victor Timely in next episode, so that's something I'm really looking forward to. But guys, what did you think about Loki Season 2, Episode 3? Again, we are halfway through the season now, which it sucks, it's crazy, but again, I mean, Loki is a show that I think that they're able to make it work with this time frame. So, looking forward to next week's episode. Of course, let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I keep up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.